Welcome everyone to a new episode of Open World. I'm here with Ale and Lani. And today we have the pleasure to interview Hi-Rez Localization Director, Estelle Bailly. We are extremely excited to have you with us today, Estelle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Very excited too.
Yeah, this is extremely exciting. And I have the honor to ask you the first question. So here it goes. What inspired you to pursue a career in linguistics?
Well, I've always been interested in having an international career. I wanted to be a diplomat, actually. So I thought that, languages would open new horizons to me. So I studied German and then English. And after college, I thought about maybe studying international business, but I wasn't too sure. And I was a good student. So I went to what is called in France Hippocagne. It's a preparatory school. And basically, once you've done that, you can apply to very elitist schools to have international careers or do politics, fancy jobs. Well, depends what you like. So the program is in 2 years, and I did 1 month. It was my first failure. There were so many things to learn, to be honest. So many books to read, essays to write, lots of things. I was like being back to college, but well, and you're 18 and you want to have this student life you've been hearing about, right? You want to go out with your friends and do stuff. Still do some studies, but have a good balance. And so after a month, I decided to quit, and I signed up at uni to study English and German because that was the only 2 courses that I really enjoyed during this preparatory school. So that's how it all began, I think.
Great that it was just 1 month. So like your decision was pretty quick compared to, I
Yeah.
think like a lot of people, like we started a career and then you're like a year or 2, and like, actually this is not for me. But you were like immediate, like, no.
Diplomat, it's very cool. And after 1 month, you're like, nah, diplomat's not for me.
That's so cool. Yeah, I wasted like a year doing a career I didn't like, and it took me a year to figure it out. So if you figure it out in a month, that's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes you force yourself, like you want to like it. You're like, okay, I already made the decision, like I have to do this or now, but you don't. So it's always good to
Yeah, exactly.
decided to.
Or maybe I was just too lazy to stay more than a month. But I really enjoyed
There was
uni.
something in
It
you
was
telling you had to go a different way. So you
yeah.
listened to your own.
Uni was better for me, I think.
So could you describe how was your journey in the world of video game localization, and from where it all began to where you are now?
Sure. So I was at uni, and I had to work to finance my student life. It costs money.
That's always a good drive forward. I need money.
Yes, I need money. I did various jobs, and then one day I saw this offer at uni. Actually, it was to translate video games, and it was in an agency not too far from where I studied. So I thought, oh, that's perfect. And at that time, I played video games quite a lot, and I had never thought it was in 1999, the last century. Oh my God, it's so old.
Okay,
Anyway,
wait, but what do you remember? What were you playing? Never mind.
Yes, it was more. So it was more girly game, but more like adventurous game. Seventh Guest, Grim Fandango. Remember Grim Fandango is Lucas Art. Yeah, it's the best one.
Of course.
These kind of games, I really liked it. And Seventh Guest, and I think the second one was 11th Hour. It was not that good. Seventh Guest was good. I remember that one. And then console game like I don't know, the Mario thing, and
But I wanted to ask, but I love that you remember all the games that you were playing.
Oh
back then. Sorry.
no, and Grim Fandango is still, I think, one of the best games I've ever played. And that was last century. Right. So anyway, I didn't know there was a job who could reunite both my passions at that time, translation and video games. So didn't know it existed, right? It was very a while ago. I mean, a long time ago. Anyway, long story short, I applied. I got the job. Minimum wage, maximum working hours. It was a true how do we call that? A startup. So
Putting
lovely,
your foot in
friendly
the door.
team. Yeah. And you do everything yourself, right? But the team was lovely, very small. We would not outsource anything, and we were working almost nights and days. 7 days a week for sure. On Friday night you could go out, but then Saturday you would be in the office. But I liked it. So it was a team of passionate people. And we all got along very well. So when I think about it today, I think, oh, that was a bit crazy, but actually, I really enjoyed it at that time. So, and because we were doing everything ourselves, I learned so much. I really worked on all aspects of the localization pipeline. I think, well, obviously translation, but proofreading, project management, account management. I even did some assistance for our direction in the recording studio, also recruitment, training of the new hires, going to convention, meeting with clients, lots of things, and team management toward the end. So it was really hard work. I learned so much. I also discovered that I wasn't that good after uni. you, at the end of uni, you think you know everything. Actually, you know nothing, but it's okay. You learn. And I had a mentor and good people who were passionate enough to teach me stuff. So I learned how to do it. And working in localization agency, you adapt. You have to adapt so much, because during the day you will work on 6-8 different projects for as many different clients, jumping from one translation guide to another, one tool to another. And one day my boss told me, well, once you know how to handle the pressure and the work in a loc agency, you can do anything then, and publisher, developer in localization, because it will sound easy to you. And I was like, oh, really? I want to try that. I want to go on the other side, actually. I want to be,
I want to see if you were right.
yes, I want to work less. And so I tried to go to the other side, to developer or publisher several times. I was looking more at job in France. And there was not that many opportunities. And each time I got the same thing. I ended up in the last 2 candidates, and people say, oh, yeah, you have some experience, but you don't have experience as a publisher or developer, so we're going to pick the other candidate. And you're like, yeah, that's why I applied, to get this experience,
That's
right?
what I'm trying to get. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
obviously,
the typical
I've never,
cycle. Like, you need the
yeah,
experience, but I need to get in to get the experience.
yeah, it's like when you're looking for an internship and you're like, yeah, but you're too junior. Yes, that's why I'm going to be an intern. Yeah, but you have no experience. Yeah, it's always the same thing, right? So anyway, in parallel, I became a mom, and Paris is a lovely city, a very busy city, and it's great. Just if you want to have a family life, especially with young kids, it's not probably the best city you could live in. So with my husband, we decided that, oh, maybe I could apply somewhere else. He's self-employed, so he just needed an internet connection, a good one, but still, that's convenient. So I started to apply to jobs in other cities and other countries. And that's how I joined Hi-Rez in 2016. I didn't know this company actually before applying to it, but the free-to-play model, monetization model, really interested in me as well. So, well, anyway, I got the job once again, and we all moved to Brighton in the UK with the kids who couldn't speak a word of English at that time. And that was quite an adventure, I have to say.
Hey,
How
But
like,
old
how
were
old
your
were the
kids,
kids?
Estelle?
there were 6 and 8. Yeah. Oh, in
Wow.
France, you start learning foreign language very late. That's why we are bad at foreign languages. Yeah, so when we arrived here, a teacher said, well, after 3 months, they're going to pick a few words here and there. After 6 months, they're going to start to understand. And after a year, they'll talk. And that's exactly what happened. And now, when I talk to their teacher and tell them that their native language is French, they say, oh, really? They don't say. Why? When the
Wow.
teacher hears me after 5 seconds, you're French, right? I wonder how you guessed.
That's
But anyway,
amazing. Such a big
yeah,
change for everyone in the family, right?
yeah, but
It turned
I
out
don't
good.
regret anything. Yes, exactly. So it was a great
That's
change.
amazing.
Great.
I loved hearing like your whole journey into how you got to your current role. And now my next question is, what do you find most rewarding about your current role and why?
Team management, definitely. I like being a team leader. I started in France. I had a great team in France as well, brilliant project manager. I was very lucky to have them. And when I arrived at Hi-Rez, we developed the team, the localization team, and we had great people joining and learning with all of them. It was it's a multi cultural team, obviously. And that's so interesting. And I love being a team leader, taking care of people. Um, I think I've always known I cared for people. I like caring for people, but I think the older I grow, the more interested I am in human beings, rather than projects. Sorry, no offense to Hi-Rez project. Still like our project, but I do love our people at Hi-Rez. So, and I think this really reflects my way of managing people. If you ask me, or if you talk to me about OKR, do you work with OKR? Do you know what OKR are? Or if you don't, you can Google it or just don't Google it. Anyway, but it's just like setting objectives and to each of your team members, in a specific period of time, and you need to achieve this and that and that. And if you ask me to do this, I probably run away because I'm more like on the human side. And I am, well, okay, tell me, what are you interested in? What kind of games do you want to work on? What kind of skills do you want to develop to focus on? And I try to keep that in mind when I assign a new project. It's not always possible. I'm not saying, oh, I'm not perfect. So definitely, it's not always possible to please everyone. But to me, if I can give a project manager a game they want to work on, as a project, then I'm quite certain that they will do their very, very best to deliver an excellent job just because they will be motivated. Some people say pressure makes diamond. I'm really not. I don't like that. I really prefer motivation makes diamond. That's my motto actually. And let's say that when you're motivated, I think half of the job is already done, kind of. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. Motivation
Order.
makes diamonds. I love it. We have
Yeah,
to put it as a
yeah.
quote of the episode as well. It's really cool.
Yeah, it speaks wonders of you, honestly, you putting people first. I mean, nowadays and in this industry in particular, it speaks wonders. So, yeah.
I try to do it. I'm not
I
saying I
but
can,
try, yeah. I mean,
but
but you are trying
that's
at
what I
least. I
want
mean,
to
that's
It's
do.
the
something.
intention.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
it
So,
works well. So yeah.
yeah, I have the next question. And how has your career evolved over the years, and what lessons have you learned along the way?
Oh, well, as I mentioned earlier, I think I did all the roles I could possibly do, I believe, in the video game lock industry. Not that I can't learn anything anymore, really not. But, from translation, proofreading, project management, recruitment. Yeah, I even did some LQA at some point, well, on casual games, and it was in my early years. But yeah, team leader and now log director. Yeah, that's already quite a lot of things. There must be other things I can do, but The lessons, I would say a few lessons. Well, motivation is key. Try to motivate your team. That's how they will want to stay in your company, not necessarily stay in your team, but at least make them feel part of they belong to a group, a team. I think that's important, to focus on their motivation and on your own motivation as well. And obviously communication is key. Work life, private life, communication is always key. I keep saying that to my kids. And communication is key, not always when it's bad, to talk about things that went bad. If things go well, say it as well, because when you work with vendors, don't be too shy, and send them an email when you're happy with them delivering the job. So with good reactivity, or because they respected all instruction, or because it went well. It's not because you don't have, a bad comment to say, just that you shouldn't communicate with them. So yes, communicate when you're not happy, but also when you're happy. It's important. Communication is key.
That is such a good point, because I feel like feedback a lot of times is like you just give feedback when something wrong is happening, and so the other person might feel like, well, I'm doing everything wrong. Like how, but that's
It
just
even
a
sounds
little
very
like positive
Yeah.
feedback that might give them that motivation, like you were saying. No, like okay,
And
I am
French,
doing
right?
a good
So,
job. Like
yeah. And when you're French, French tends to focus on the negative. Oh, you should have done better on this, that, and oh, this is not really good. This is not, it's not really the positive education, even at school. So I think it's really important that once in a while to send an email just to say thank you for your commitment, thank you for being there, because you're really part of our success as well. So it's good to say that, and also send feedback when they didn't deliver, exactly what you were expecting as well, because otherwise they can't know, they have to improve, obviously. Another
and that's something
lesson,
that you need
yeah,
to know how to do as well, right? To
yes,
give that feedback the
yeah,
best way possible.
yes, exactly, and also to accept the feedback. But yeah, definitely, it's super important, communication. But yeah, be humble as well. Always don't be afraid to be too vulnerable. I think, especially when you're in the leadership team, yeah, you can't know everything. You can't have the answer to every single question, or you can't solve every problem. You're not perfect, so yes, accept it and try to just be humble and be open to, you can learn from everyone anytime. So yeah, well, overconfident people tend to make me feel very uncomfortable. That's my imposter syndrome. So
I
yes,
feel
humility
you.
is key. I prefer humility in human beings. And also, don't be an asshole. Yes, that's one of our motto at Hi-Rez. Don't be an asshole. Um, yeah,
I
no, it's
really
true.
like this message.
Yeah,
It's like
well, assholes.
usually it's like confidence that gets praised, right? Like you have to show yourself like really confident, like you know everything, and like well, also you can be humble. It's also really like being humble is also really really important. Like
Yes, because
it shows really good things. Like for me at least, like when I see a leader that is humble and it's open to learn new things, like you were saying, you're like, oh wow, okay, this is it's just we connect a bit more. I think.
yes, exactly. And yeah, don't be an asshole. Be nice with others. Assholes, they never win in the end. Well, except in politics, but okay, that's another discussion.
It's another
um,
topic.
but yeah, and the last thing I would say, it's maybe this is just work. Yeah, it's important as well to remember that, because especially when so if you're like me and tend to feel like an imposter, and then you tend to push yourself to work, as hard or as much as possible, because you want to show to people that yes, I belong here, I deserve my promotion, or uh, you want to prove something to others. Then the burnout is never really too far from you. And so learn to stop before it's too late. I went through burnout as well in my early years in France. and that's really not something you want to to go through. It's not nice. And it takes time to recover. So we're not saving lives. We're just doing video games, right? So it's cool. It's really cool. But just don't forget it. It won't change anything if you answer this email in half an hour. Just go for a walk, short walk.
Oh my God. Yes.
Get a break. Yes. Yeah.
Preach.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah. It's just you will be so much more productive. And yes, don't need to answer your email constantly, because I was like, yeah, I would not, I would stay in front of my desk, not going to toilet somewhere to go and get food, and just because I thought, oh, if I go back to my desk, there would be so many emails to answer, and I need to answer right away because the clients need to know I'm on it. That was always my word, I'm on it, and yeah, and actually, yes, I'm on it, but I can be on it like in half an hour, and take care of yourself as well. It's really important. And I think after COVID years,
Oh my God. Yeah.
to realize a bit more that it's important, but it's definitely the most important thing. Yes, your mental
Yeah.
health and your
Absolutely.
well-being.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yes, because and because I've been working on my imposter syndrome recently, I try also to be more gentle with myself and to accept that, yeah, I'm not perfect. And some people in my team know more than I do. And actually, it's fine. Probably it's because, I was good enough to hire them. So I hired the right people, probably. And I shouldn't be afraid if they are better than me. Yeah, I try to be more comfortable with my weaknesses as well. And it takes time, not gonna lie, but in them.
That's such a
Yeah.
good point. I believe, like
Yeah.
being gentle with yourself, and how people say all the time this things like how we we're like so used to lifting other people up, and how a lot of things when something happened or we're in a situation, we talk to ourselves like we would never talk to a friend like we talk to ourselves, and it's like, well, how is that possible? We're not being that compassionate with our
Yeah.
own like selves.
We didn't have a lot of friends.
No, I mean it's so important because also I believe after COVID and remote working and everything, it was just harder to separate your personal life from work. And for me personally, I have to constantly remind myself it's just work. Like tomorrow is going to be okay. If you send this like 2 hours later, no one's going to die. So it's just like
Yes, that's my manager at Hi-Rez used to say that all the time, and I keep saying it because it's true. Like, yeah, no one will die. It's just yeah, and it's just work. It's just
yeah,
and it's just games. But
yeah,
even games are important. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure
yeah,
we have many,
100%.
but yeah, no one will die, and that's the most important thing.
So Estelle, many people experience imposter syndrome, right? At some point, beginning or even when they get a high position. But you have presented some excellent talks about this subject, right? So I don't know how to phrase this question, but maybe it would be what strategies or techniques have you found effective that you'd like to share with us in fighting these feelings of inadequacy, self doubt? I don't know. You take it from wherever you want.
Okay. Oh, first, allow me to, because of the terminology, because of my translation background, so it's going to be a
Please.
terminology
Yeah.
minute. Um,
Yes, of course.
I know we all say imposter syndrome. I do say it all the time. In fact, yeah, the official historical term is imposter phenomenon because it's or imposter experience because it is an experience rather than when we say imposter syndrome, it makes people feel that it's a clinical diagnosis, which is not. So the right term should actually be imposter phenomenon, but that's end of the parenthesis. Imposter syndrome is the term that is widespread indeed. Just and indeed, just to to confirm what you were just saying, it does affect 70 to 80% of the global population at one point in their life. So if you do feel this way, you're not alone. And I'm here, actually.
I have
I'm
to say that
also
I love that it's a phenomena, right?
yes,
It sounds more interesting than something clinical, that something is actually
yes,
wrong with you.
yes,
So we should
yes.
spread around that it's imposter phenomena, not imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to use phenomenon in the rest of the interview. But yeah, so talking about some tips or strategies or things I've learned with my research and my training so far. The best one, what I find is the best one, at least to me, is to consider myself as a work in progress person, someone who is constantly learning things. And then it allows you to make mistakes. It allows you to accept that you're not perfect, because no one is, you're not perfect. Sorry, team. And I'm not perfect. It allows you as well to to accept that good enough is actually quite excellent. It's just not. It's just sometimes, as an imposter, you just I'm not good enough. Well, actually, you are, and good enough is good, because you can't be perfect. So, it's yeah. Considering myself as a work in progress person is actually one of the best advice I received. And I keep repeating it to myself, very often when I don't have the answer. I'm just like, it's fine. I'm learning. I'm open to learn, and just, yes, I keep learning every day from everyone. So that's fine. Don't be afraid. We mentioned that earlier as well, but, to ask for feedback, to ask for help. Wise people actually ask for help. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and to be vulnerable as well, especially as a leader, but not only as a leader. It's asking for feedback is actually a good way to know where you are versus where you think you are, and there might be a big difference, especially if you feel like an imposter. And be gentle with yourself, because yes, believe it or not, but you are entitled to make mistake once in a while. So don't be too hard with yourself. Self-compassion, I mentioned that in my talk. If you're good at being an imposter, you probably suck at self-compassion. And you should consider self-compassion as a new friend, actually, because it can really help you to silence those, the negative self-talk message that pop up in your mind each time the imposter syndrome, imposter phenomenon is triggered. Well, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve my role. What am I doing here? Oh, I feel so stupid. They know more, they know better than me. They are better than me. All these negative thoughts, they don't define you. And self-compassion, try to be more gentle with yourself, really important. And of course, talk about it, normalize it, break the silence. It sounds easy, say it like this, but in fact, when you've spent most of your life trying to hide that you feel like an imposter, trying to hide your one of your biggest weaknesses, it's not that easy to talk about it, but it's really worth it. And also consider the source, right? Try to contextualize the imposter phenomenon. Are you the only woman in this board meeting, or the only person of color? Are you a student, who is constantly, whose skills are constantly assessed via exams, tests? Are you the first graduate in your family? Do you work in a creative field, in a highly competitive field, or in a field, with everything changes, where everything changes so rapidly? We talk about AI a lot at the moment, and I think you can quickly feel overwhelmed, if you work in this field. So there are lots of societal and situational factors to take into consideration if you want to get a bigger picture of the imposter phenomenon. But
I think that's such a great point that you just made,
yeah,
Estelle, because like Ale said before, the thing about like, oh, is there something wrong with me? And a lot of times you can explain it, like you were saying, like with the context as well. Like there's a lot of things, inequalities in our society, and
yes,
in the private sector, in companies and leadership roles. So a lot of times it makes it makes sense that people feel that way because they're not actually being represented. There's not other people like them in the room. So it's really hard not to feel so
yeah, no,
yeah.
exactly. It has a lot to do as well with diversity, inclusion, equity, and yeah, it's some passion.
Yeah. And like you were saying, talking about it, I think as well, like, the phrase like fake it till you make it. And then people just feel like they're faking all the time because they can't really feel like they deserve what they're doing or they know what they're doing. And I was very shocked, like, also for everyone that's listening, how we met Stell was one of her talks at a conference. And I dare to say it was one of the most popular talks in the conference. So
Thank
the
you.
room was full. Everyone
Full
was so
house.
interested in
Full
participating.
house.
And then, when you were asking people to raise their hands, everyone was like, at
Yeah.
any like different parts of your talk, they were feeling represented. They were feeling so everyone in the room. So you can tell how many people actually feel this way.
And I've done these talks several times, and each time I can't help but being surprised, but in a positive way, to see how actually people in the audience feel comfortable to open up about their own imposter experiences. At the end, I tried, well, we didn't have that enough time in the talk when we met because it was limited, but I did another one with more question at the end, and I tried to do. I'm not a medical expert, right? Or so the Q&A at the end is more like an open discussion for people to share their experience if they want, and rather than real oh, what should I do when I feel like this is just and each time it's people really open up and talk about their experience in front of people they've never seen before, and sometimes in front of their own colleagues as well, who discover that, oh, that's how you feel, so that's gives a lot of discussion as well. It's super interesting. It's topics I'm really passionate about. I can talk about it for
You're very passionate
ages.
as well. This is yeah.
Thank you. But so I've just completed a new training. It's actually an imposter syndrome informed coach. So I can coach now. And it was delivered by the Imposter Syndrome Institute, who's actually co-founded by Dr. Valerie Young, and she's the absolute expert on the topic. And the conclusion of this training was actually the only way to stop feeling like an imposter is to stop thinking like an imposter. People who don't experience imposter phenomenon, they just think differently when facing a challenge. They are not more intelligent or more capable or more competent than people with imposter phenomenon are. It's just that they think differently. And I think it's a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, um,
Nice little
I
switch.
yeah, I
Yeah.
started like early in my life doing some sort of switch. I still suffer imposter syndrome. I
Yeah.
still have that monster in my bedroom. It's still there.
Oh, your monster. I call it
Yeah,
my
it's a
friend.
monster. No, mine is a monster because it haunts me all the time. It could be a ghost too. Like you just throw the Halloween theme there. Like, yeah,
You have to turn it into a friendly
perfect
monster, like
Halloween
a still
costume.
one.
The imposter syndrome. Yeah. I mean, I started doing something about. I'm really hard with myself, So every time I make a mistake, usually I will go like extremely like super hard on me. But then I realized that if I don't make that mistake and I'm not allowing myself to learn from that mistake,
Yeah.
how else I'm going to learn? So
Yeah.
um I just that's something that like I don't know, it dropped in my mind one day and I was like, oh well, it's not that bad then. But it's so hard. So hard. I always try
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
remind myself it's extremely hard.
It is extremely hard, that's for sure, but it's worth trying to, yes, remember that's because you've done this mistake that you are who you are today. Sorry, it sounds a bit cheesy, but it's true, and that's and you learn so much from your mistakes. It's just you have to do mistakes. Otherwise, you would never really improve or change, or it's part of the experience, the whole life experience, I think. Um, and during the training, I forgot the name of the guy, but we talked about this a TED talk about the guy who thought about we are talking about the importance of failure and the way you could see how failure actually help you grow up and help you grow. And this guy actually presents himself only with his failure, rather than I'm going to try that in my next talk. I think I noted that down, but I want to try. When you do this a talk or presentation, an introduction, and you say you would say, oh, I've done this and I've worked there, and I've worked on that many projects, and so it's all
your
your achievements,
achievements.
right? Yes. And then when you see these TED talks, it's just like focusing on, yeah, no, I'm not the best one. Oh, I failed this. I tried this, and yeah, it didn't work. Or I had this company. Well, I had to close it down. So, and that's what I learned. And that's another way of presenting yourself. But I think that's so much better. That's my opinion. But yeah, I really liked it. I was just like, yeah, actually, you people know about your achievement. They just go to your LinkedIn profile and they have your
I love
achievement,
that.
right? Because you sell yourself, right? If you send your CV to a recruiter, you might not just list your failure, obviously. But I really like the way of introducing yourself or presenting who you are in an audience to an audience and see how they react as well. So yeah, that's if I do another talk soon, I will try to do that.
I love that. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So I have the final question for you, Stell. Are you ready for
Yeah.
it?
Oh yeah, sure.
What advice do you have for those aspiring to follow a similar path in the video game localization industry?
Mm. That's a tough one. You get the tough one for the
It
end.
is the last one, so
My background is translation, right? So first I was a translator. So if someone wants to be a translator right now or aspire to follow this kind of path, my gut feeling would be pick another career path, maybe if you still can, or at least be prepared. Be prepared to evolve, in your job as quickly as the technology or AI does. But I don't want to be too negative, pessimistic here. Just realistic. If the technology changes, you need to adapt. You need to work with the machine, not against it, right? So, but talking about it, actually, last week I had a realization. Yes, it happens sometimes. You're familiar? Do you know Asterix? The comic books, Asterix and Obelix.
Yes,
yeah,
Asterix and
yeah,
Obelix.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you like it? Well, I don't
No?
know if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
like it, but you know it.
yeah.
Yeah.
The little
So,
guy and the big guy.
yes, I was in France, and so the new Asterix was out. I think in English it's the White Iris. I bought it. I read it in French, and now I'm actually desperate to buy the English version. I need to order it. There are so many references, like cultural references to the French culture. Songs, proverbs, obviously all the names of the characters are puns and reference to French persons or culture. So honestly, it's full of it. So reading it, I was like, oh, I hope translators had notes and contextual reference. I'm sure they had, obviously, for such a important release. But when reading it, obviously, I thought with my translation mind. And so I want to read it in English now because I want to see which miracle the translators have accomplished, to be honest. I think even for the English version, you would need a British English version, an American English version, Australian English version, to adapt this asterisk properly, and I checked, I think there's only one English version, which is sad, but I really want to see what they've done. My point is, so my realization was actually translators, yes, they have a future, it's good. I'm sure you're ready.
That's
No,
a
but
great takeaway. Adapt
yes,
to
No, it
yes,
is.
technologies
so we
and
end.
Yeah.
you
No,
still
but
have
I
a
mean,
future.
yes, because one of the most important aspects of translation, is all the cultural and linguistic context of the text, right? So, yes, AI has made amazing progress in natural language processing. I won't deny it. I can't deny it. It's just, but AI is still unable to get all the nuances of a culture or a language, like
100%.
idioms,
Yeah.
proverbs, puns, jokes. I mean, while AI can be useful in certain fields for language professionals, it cannot replace, I think, the expertise and the cultural awareness of a human translator, at least for now, right? So, what I'm trying to say is that most probably my job, because it was a question. So, yeah, my job, as it's been over the past decades, or as it's still today, will keep changing, evolving, as new technologies, new, and AI progress are used. So probably for students today, it might be more useful to study linguistic engineering, maybe, if such a thing exists, or if you're not really into IT, to focus your studies on the cultural aspects of languages to become a cultural expert, because we will keep needing that, and our chance in the video game industry, I think, is that the texts we translate are mainly creative, and our human expertise adds massive value to the final localized products. And I said earlier, you need to work with the machine, not against it. So you also need to know where your added value is. And as a video game translator, your added value is most definitely in the knowledge of all the linguistic nuances and the cultural references of your native language.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think that's a great
I love that.
advice. Like, adapt, and there's a lot of changes happening in the industry. So we'll
Yes,
see what the future holds for us.
exactly. I think we're all like, there's lots of uncertainties, right? Trying to navigate, but it's still uncertain at the moment. But
Absolutely.
get
Yes. Well, Estelle, thank you so much for joining us. This was a great episode. I'm sure everyone listening will agree that all your advice is very valuable. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I had a great time. So hopefully everyone had too.
I
And
mean, I had a great time too, so I bet they have.
hey, you know what? That's all that matters.
Thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Stella. It was
Thank
amazing.
you. Talk to
Okay,
you
goodbye,
See
soon.
everyone next
everyone.
time.
Bye.